Welcome, welcome, welcome. Greetings, greetings, greetings. And of course, I don't got no spill. All I do is keep it real. This is cloud chasing at an all-time high. Now today, what we're going to discuss is this whole Diddy drama. We've been watching it unfold. We went from the situation of they announcing his arrest and not having no footage to all of a sudden coming up with footage, but we still haven't seen him in court. There's a lot of stuff going on with this thing. And I know by the title, you're probably thinking my mind is made up, but not so. And I'm not necessarily here siding or agreeing with Diddy at all. But I do want to look into what exactly is going on through a historical perspective, if you want to say it like that. So before I get into it, I'm just get into what I really want to get into. Thank y'all for joining. Please like, share, subscribe. I want to sit here and just break this down with y'all, and we can go over it like that. So that's what we got. Shout out to shout out to Kevin Williams. He put this together. I haven't seen it yet, so we're just gonna go over it together. But it's basically about the Mann Act with Jack Johnson. It says unable to defeat Jack. It say unable to defeat Jack Johnson in the ring. Some set out to defeat Jack Johnson by any means necessary.
The advantage that light-skinned people have with white people is that if white people will actually look at them, they can see themselves. But Jack Johnson was a big, black, dark-skinned man.
And let me show y'all something. Extreme. What he just said right there, right? Dark-skinned man. So we already realizing that this Mann Act is not for Drake. We know that this law was not designed for nobody like Drake. It was specifically designed for somebody like Diddy, R. Kelly, Kanye West. Jigga getting a pass because of Beyonce. But yeah, it's about to get deep, y'all.
Extremely dark-skinned black guys in particular, everybody is put out by them because when they come on the scene, everybody tends to feel they're in the presence of something aboriginal. With somebody like Jack Johnson, everybody's like, oh, now we're back at the beginning. And so I think that Johnson had that kind of power too.
They must have enjoyed it. They must have enjoyed being scared. We all go to see a horror movie because we like being scared. It's a part of human nature, you know. Give me a scary booger bear and I'm going to be happy. And it wasn't just white people. The decent black folk didn't want their daughters associated with him. So he couldn't have a date with him. So-called decent black girl, whatever that meant. But the black people were so-called middle-class black people were scared of him, terrified of him, as much as white people were.
Advice to Jack Johnson. Mr. Jack Johnson must conduct himself in a...
So y'all peep the pattern, right? Y'all peep the pattern of the people that catch this man act, right? Extremely dark skinned, ghetto, I guess you could say, non-colloquial, non-collegiate, right? Came up from their bootstraps. It's a criteria to catch this charge, y'all. Look at the criteria.
In a modest manner. He can hurt the race immeasurably just now if he goes splurging and making a useless, noisy exhibition of himself. We hope that he will not be arrested on any charge. Any undue exhibition on the part of Mr. Johnson will hurt every member of the race. On the other hand, becoming modesty and self-control will win him many friends. The New York Age.
Modesty
Check him out, y'all.
was never part of Jack Johnson's
Check him out,
making.
y'all. He got that grill. He got that grill, you feel me? So, you know, it just go to show you that's the archetype of somebody catch a man at. You know, dark skin, gold grill, you know what I'm saying? And this was back in the 20s with the grill. You see what I'm saying? So New Orleans and Miami, y'all late, man. This man was doing that already, man. This is what I'm saying. Like, it's so deep because they bring back stuff from the past to put it right in our future or our present. And it's just weird, you know. You can get all this money, all this success, and the society that we living in, that's doing too much. So as dark-skinned Black people, we don't want to be leaders because we see what they did to all our leaders, right? We damn near don't even want to be millionaires because once you get a certain level of financial success, then they come in with all this stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And bring you right back down. Because in my lifetime, I've never got to see a real Black billionaire see their full potential and have generational wealth, especially anybody outside of sports or entertainment, because that's the only lanes that they allow for Black people, especially dark-skinned Black people, to even get any money for real, right? So
Neither was self-control. Everywhere the champion went, trouble now seemed to follow. Some of it stirred up by his enemies, some of his own making.
And certain unfair persons piqued because I was champion, decided if they could not get me one way, they would another.
2 years earlier, a new federal law had gone into effect.
You hear this now? They come up with a law. They come up with a law, right? This is what they're doing with Diddy right now. Check it out.
And certain unfair persons piqued because I was champion, decided if they could not get me one way, they would another.
2 2 years earlier, a new federal law had gone into effect. The Mann Act was named for its sponsor, Illinois Republican Congressman James Robert Mann.
So be thankful to this guy. Be thankful to this guy who sat back, watched the black man come to prominence, probably made more in 1 month than this guy made in his whole entire career, right? Let's be truthful. That's why he's upset, right? So this is the guy we got to think. This is the guy that we have to strategize and get into and find out about. So that's what we're gonna do. What's his name again? What's his name, y'all?
Federal law had gone into effect. The Mann Act was named for its sponsor, Illinois Republican Congressman James Robert Mann.
James Robert Mann. That's his name, y'all. Let's see here. We're gonna see what James Robert Mann was up to. We're gonna see what James Robert Mann was up to. Right? Okay. Okay, y'all. I'm doing my research, and what I'm seeing right now, James Robert Mann was an American politician and an attorney who served as a member for the state's House of Representatives from Illinois, 1897 to 1922. He was a member of the Republican Party and served as the House Minority Leader, 1911 to 1912. So we know right now he's in politics. He's a politician, congressman, right? And let's see. Let's see what else we got. He was born near Bloomington, Illinois in October 20. His older brother was Frank Irving Mann, a farmer editor of the Prairie Farm news publication and author of the Farmer's Creed. Okay, so he was like a farmer guy and this and that. So yeah, he was very modest. He wasn't really making no noise or nothing, had no bread. He was admitted into the Illinois bar in 1881, commenced his practice in Chicago, and served local offices before being elected as a congressman, right? So, and he don't really even have no whole lot of accolades as no congressman. You know what I'm saying? So, was one of the sponsors of the Mann-Elkins Act, which gave more power to Interstate Commerce Commission to regulate railroad rates. He is best known for his authorship of the Mann Act of 1910, which was a reaction to white slavery issues and prohibited transportation of women between states of purposes of prostitution. He introduced legislation that became the Pure Food and Drugs Act of 1906. So by sitting here looking at his background, he was a farmer, a son of a farmer. So he wasn't like no slave owner. So we're gonna get all that out the way now, because we always make it seem like just because these people Caucasian, Anglo-Saxon, whatever you prefer to call these people, right? He didn't come from no prominent family. He wasn't prominent in that regards. So, you know, having a farm, working, you know, he might have did have some what you call indentured servants around and stuff like that. So he's used to the superiority complex of everything. He's used to that. Even though he's coming from meager beginnings, humble beginnings himself. So he don't want to see a black person at that time doing better than him. That's the whole law is all about. This particular law right here. James Robert Mann, the one who sat back and watched Jack Johnson become a heavyweight champion, more than 10 times his salary, right? Right? So he sat back and came up with this for a couple of years while he stepped back and watched this man rise to prominence. Let's go.
It barred the transportation of women in interstate or foreign commerce for the purpose of prostitution or debauchery, or for any other immoral purpose.
Okay, so look.
A landmark of progress.
That's where they got Diddy at. Diddy going state to state. You doing freak offs. You got sex workers. Listen, they don't want to see no black man with all that money and all that access slinging his dick around like that. They don't want to see that. And they sure don't want to see that with no white woman or no fair-skinned Latino woman, right? Because remember, this law is dedicated to dark skin, darkies. You dig what I'm saying? So with him, and I'm saying him as Diddy, with Diddy involving himself with J-Lo and Cassie and all these people. But if you look at his baby mother, even his, one of his baby mothers, she's pretty fair-skinned, but the other one is dark. Damn near the same complexion. That's why his son, I think that's from Kim Porter, right? So, listen, y'all. I'm not really the one to get racial and stuff. I don't really like bringing all that out. But history reveals itself to you and shows you what you need to be aware of. So let's go.
Progressive era legislation. The Mann Act was intended to stop the luring of young women into prostitution, what was called the white slave traffic, not private relationships between consenting adults. But officials of the Justice Department saw in it their chance to destroy Jack Johnson. By October of 1912, Johnson had a new companion, a 19-year-old prostitute from Milwaukee named Lucille Cameron.
Let's stop right there. First of all, she's not underage. She's 19. She's already in the sex working field when he met her, right? But she just didn't have the complexion for that particular connection at that time. So they wanted to target this man, and they knew that he had a preference for these white women because he's getting all this money, right? So with R. Kelly, right? He never had any white people on his case. The sisters were pretty fat, like brown skinned, mahogany tone, and caramel complexion. He never really dealt with like snow bunnies or whatever. I think they just got him to get him up out of the way. To for his music and money or whatever they, they just got a personal vendetta against him or whatever, and that they practiced this law on him, and nobody fought for him. Nobody. They made R. Kelly look very despicable. So it got to the point that nobody really defended him or stood by his side. Now with Diddy, they point out he got 1,000 bottles of baby oil. 1,000 bottles of baby oil. That's what they point out. So I'm just, you know, bring it a little back. Listen how they came up with a whole law just to take this brother down.
But officials of the Justice Department saw in it their chance to destroy Jack Johnson. By October of 1912, Johnson had a new companion, a 19-year-old prostitute from Milwaukee named Lucille Cameron. When her mother, Mrs. F. Cameron Falconet, came to Chicago and went to the police, charging Johnson with abducting her daughter, the Justice Department's Bureau of Investigation agreed to take the case. Jack Johnson has hypnotic powers, Mrs. Cameron Falconet assured the press.
So back then, we got a Karen, right? A Karen, mad that her daughter ran off with a black man because they already described her as a 19-year-old prostitute. So it seems like the mother probably was doing the pimping, right? So now she ran off with Jack Johnson, right? Karen, the mother, that can't get no more residuals off of her daughter. Let's be honest, man. We know the time. We know what was going on at the time. So she goes run to the police. Let's go. Make it make sense, y'all. Karen's been out there. That's basically a classic case of a Karen situation.
And he has exercised them on my little girl.
Hold on.
I would rather see my daughter spend the to the police, charging Johnson with abducting her daughter. The Justice Department's Bureau of Investigation agreed to take the case. Jack Johnson has hypnotic powers, Mrs. Cameron Falconet assured the press, and he has exercised them on my little girl. I would rather see my daughter spend the rest of her life in an insane asylum than see her the plaything of a nigger. Her lawyer said that by having a relationship with his client's daughter, Jack Johnson had insulted every white woman in the United States.
The Mann Act. It was never aimed at an individual having a liaison with a secretary going from New York to Hoboken. It was aimed at commercialized vice. And the Attorney General of America, a man by the name of Wickersham, knew this. And when he was first approached to use this against Jack Johnson, he understood that we can't do this, that this is a travesty.
So let me ask y'all, I'm just wondering, you know, and I know that a lot of you people on YouTube can do a whole lot better research than I can. Can y'all tell me, since the inception of this crime, has there been any other race that has ever been tried or convicted of this crime? Or is this just specifically for dark-skinned black males who get some sort of power or money? Make it make sense to me, y'all. And if that is true, should that law even still be on the books and still be enforceable in this world that we living in? If everybody got LGBTQ and all these rights and stuff like that, can we still enforce racist laws in America?
But eventually, Wickersham was convinced to go after Jack Johnson, to pervert the law.
On October 18th, 1912, Chicago police arrested Johnson for violating the Mann Act.
The United States versus Jack Johnson decided to attack him on the basis of the sex life and the miscegenation. Miscegenation has always been a preoccupation and a fixation in the mind of white America. Black men with white women. This had always been a concern.
Y'all hear that? So basically, if you're a black man, specifically a dark-skinned black man, and you out here moving around and having sex and got the means to pay for it, you might be guilty. You might be guilty of this act that this James Robert man out of Illinois, who was a farmer boy, came up with and put in place, that we still walking around enforcing that to the point we're looking at Diddy and saying, man, you got 1,000 bottles of baby oil. You got to be guilty. You hit that girl. You whooped that girl down. We seen you do it. That's what he's guilty of, y'all.
I think that it was exactly what the South did after it lost the Civil War. It lost the shooting war, but eventually it won the policy war and was able to keep the Constitution from functioning below the Mason-Dixon line. So this is a variation on the way that the South won after it lost. That's exactly what happened with Jack Johnson. We can't find anybody to beat him, so we'll just do what we've done before, which is just turn the law against him.
Johnson was released.
Speaking of P. Diddy, speaking of R. Kelly, do we have any white artists that even rival the accolades of these two gentlemen? Tell me, put it in the, who, Toby Keith? Toby Keith, he rivals R. Kelly? Put it in the chat. Let me see somebody that know any white artist that rivals R. Kelly or Diddy by their accomplishments, by their recognition, anything. Show me these artists and we could see why this man is being locked up.
On $800 bail by nightfall. Lucille Cameron was locked up too. And when Johnson went to the bank to get $25,000 with which to try to bail her out, an angry mob gathered outside. There were shouts of lynch him, and Johnson had to take refuge inside his own cafe.
You see that? All because a black man had money to bail out his white snow bunny, right? You got a mob outside the place, making sure he can't get her. We still dealing with that mentality today, y'all. We still see that same mentality today, y'all. I don't understand why we sit here acting like we don't know what Diddy is guilty of. We know he's guilty of being a black successful man. We know that. But besides that, show me what he's guilty of. Just like Jack Johnson. Show me what he was guilty of.
A few days later, the city collector padlocked the Café de Champion and canceled its license, declaring Johnson an undesirable person and of bad character.
Okay, so what do with Diddy, y'all? Freeze all his accounts, everything, right? So people say it's behind him speaking up over that DeLeon liquor situation. And maybe it could be. Or maybe it was meant to be from the beginning, as long as you get successful and you Black in America. So it's nothing he could have done to prevent what is inevitably going on right now. You know, hell, for all we know, Diddy could already be gone. You know, we don't really know. Ain't nobody been keeping up, because what they do is they disassociate you from your people, disassociate you from your media, disassociate you from getting the word out about your condition or about your charges or whatever the situation is. I've been on YouTube almost a year with this channel. I don't know. I could see how your numbers could get suppressed. I could see how some people can't even get to see your video. I could see that because it go on with real big channels. So imagine channels that's starting out. And then we got racist AI. It's just so many flaws in the system. So with that being said, what really is Diddy guilty of besides treating his artist bad, being a bad individual, you know, being a bad person or whatever? But he tells you, I'm a bad boy, right? But is being a bad boy really illegal? Just because we don't like him? What is he really guilty of, comparing it to this right here?
So long as I do not interfere with any other man's wife, I shall claim the right to select the woman of my own choice.
And let me say something, y'all.
No.
That right there is the main reason Diddy and Jack Johnson was locked up, because they weren't married. I heard on Choke No Joke, he brought up how Ike and Tina Turner, nobody never brought charges towards Ike Turner. And then someone made a point that him and Tina Turner was married. Him and Tina Turner was married. So with this whole Jack Johnson thing, that's a very important thing. Same thing with Diddy and same thing with R. Kelly. Those brothers were not married.
So long as I do not interfere with any other man's wife, I shall claim the right to select the woman of my own choice. Nobody else can do that for me. I am not a slave, and I have the right to choose who my mate shall be without the dictation of any man. I have eyes and I have a heart. And when they fail to tell me who I shall have as mine, I want to be put in a lunatic asylum.
And now, as Johnson had always feared, some African Americans began to abandon him.
October 26, 1912.
I want to point out something.
It is unfortunate
about these time periods, right? And I was, I just be doing my independent research. And it goes back even to this Mann Act situation. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, there weren't a lot of mixed race people around. I mean, they existed ever since so-called slavery or whatever, but there was not a huge, big population of these people. That's why they were easily to make a law and basically direct it towards a dark-skinned type person. But looking at these times now, and they still trying to enforce these laws, but you have you have so many more interracial and light-skinned type people. I wonder, can they fall under this? Have they ever been tried of anything like that? Have any mulatto or mixed race person or lighter skinned, fair skinned, or white person ever been charged with this act out of all the people they probably charged it on? Please, I do the independent history and research on
that a man with money should use it in a way to injure his own people in the eyes of those who are seeking to uplift his race and improve its conditions. I wish to say emphatically that Jack.
All right. Now, Booker T. Washington, he looks like a lighter skinned brother, right? But on closer inspection, you could tell back then, them cameras, the brother is probably really just a copper tone, indigenous, Native American, right? See, that's a big confusion with the so-called African American, right? And the indigenous. Booker T. Washington is clearly not a mixed person from a mixed race, not a fair-skinned, light person that looks white, but an indigenous native to this country. And that's maybe why he was able to excel so great in this country around the time of all these politicians and all these people making up all these laws. He was in the mix of all of that, you know, with a lot to say concerning Black people.
Johnson's actions did not meet my personal approval, and I am sure that they do not meet with the approval of the colored race. A man with muscle minus brains is a useless creature.
See, even Booker T. Washington
Booker
was
T.
going
Washington.
You see what I'm saying?
I think there are three
And
Black leaders in the first couple decades of the 20th century. One is Booker T. Washington, who has a message saying, hunker down, get education, work hard, save your money, be reliable, don't worry about social justice necessarily or social advancement.
And we do have...
On the other hand, you have W.E.B. Du Bois, who stands for don't worry about social...
Like I said, you see this brother here? He looks like one of those mulatto brothers, what I was saying. It was still, they was around, but it was rare. And those brothers still identify with being Black, even in those times. So it's one of those things, right?
Justice necessarily or social advancement. On the other hand, you have W.E.B. Du Bois, who stands for we want social equality, we want economic equality, we want advancement on all levels. And then there's Jack Johnson that says, I'm getting mine. But he stands for pure individualism, egoism.
I do not look upon Jack Johnson as a race leader, nor do I in any way endorse his life and mannerisms, for it will not pay anyone to follow it.
Same thing with Diddy, right? Even R. Kelly to an extent. We as Black people in America never looked at these people as leaders or advancing the race, only through economics and just the sheer amount of hits and stuff like that these brothers was putting together. So on that aspect, going back to my other statement of show me a contemporary or a rival of these brothers. in their same field. You can't show me none. So since you can't show me none, it's safe to say that they the only ones that could fit that bill. They just so happen to be Black brothers.
But the whole world is upon him today. Behind it all, you can see a large degree of race prejudice. He got mixed up with white women. Way down in his heart, he has a craving for Miss Anne. And that does not lay well on the stomach of the white man. Hence, he has been arrested and his case thrown on the canvas, so to speak. And the whole world throws up its hands and cries, "Behold the brute, let us crucify him." Baltimore, Afro-American.
Miss Cameron denies that she has been intimate with Jack Johnson or any other person. Her appearance, however, belies that statement, as she dresses in the height of fashion, wearing a hat said to have cost $150. Agent M.J. Linz, Bureau of Investigation.
Despite her mother's charges, Lucille Cameron refused to cooperate with the prosecutors. Called before the grand jury, she said she loved and wished to marry Johnson. Then she collapsed in tears. Without her help, there was no case. But that did not stop either the state or the federal government. They were determined to get Jack Johnson one way or another. The white public now demanded it.
How close is that to the Cassie situation, right? Think about this. This young lady claims she's been abused and this and that and all that. We saw the videotape and all of that. But she never just left. She actually cheated with his trainer that he was paying, right? His trainer that he was paying for her, her personal trainer, is now her new husband with 2 children. Similar, because they didn't have no case on Cassie. Cassie don't have no case. But these people from the whatever district that is in New York and the federal government made it their business to make a case out of it. Very, very similar.
Assistant District Attorney Harry A. Parker.
And hold up. Speaking of that, the brother out of New York, the police officer, the lieutenant dude or whatever, it's funny, right? He's like a mixed race, non-existent race person. This is very racial. This is very, very racial, man.
Called upon the Bureau of Investigation of the United States Department of Justice to help build a new case by sending its agents out to secure evidence as to illegal transportation by Johnson of any woman for immoral purposes. Federal agents fanned out across the country, looking into anonymous tips, interviewing prostitutes, chauffeurs, waiters, bellhops, Pullman porters, ex-managers, former sparring partners, fishing for something, anything that might be used to suggest that the champion had defied federal law.
October 31st, 1912. I, Belle Schreiber, alias Belle Gilbert, alias Belle Leslie, alias Mrs. J.A. Gilbert, alias Leslie Allen, alias Mrs. Jack Johnson. First being duly sworn, depose and say,
My enemies had never ceased their activities. When they could find nothing involving me improperly with Miss Cameron, they hit on an old trail. And learning of my association with Belle Schreiber, hunted her down. She was brought from Washington and set up as the accusing witness against me.
The government's new chief witness turned out to be Johnson's ex-lover, Belle Schreiber, tracked to a Washington, D.C. whorehouse, then placed under protective custody by the Bureau of Investigation and threatened with imprisonment if she did not cooperate. Embittered by Johnson's treatment of her, perhaps envious of Lucille Cameron for having displaced her in his affections, Schreiber would be a devastating witness against the man who had been her patron and on and off companion for 4 years.
All right. So I'm going to end it right there, y'all. So y'all see exactly where this is going. As this case unfolds and stuff like that, I'm going to follow it. And I'm going to try to get a little more in depth and see what they really have versus what they're putting up. Because history often repeats itself. And this looks like one of those times. So with all that being said, man, I ain't got no spill. All I do is keep it real. And this is clout chasing at an all-time high. Thanks for liking, sharing, subscribing. Salute.